Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Thunder Alley here. Today we're going to be reacting to the Los Angeles Chargers 26-8 victory over the New Orleans Saints. Last week on Monday Night Football, the Chargers fell short by 2 points to the Cardinals. There's a couple questionable calls that I thought lost them the game, but the bottom line was that the Chargers just had to be better offensively in the next game. They couldn't just settle for field goals. And the first couple of points that they put on the board were field goals, but then they started to get it going. And the reason for that is a couple of things. The main one is Justin Herbert's health. After the bye week, he's been just significantly better because now he has more mobility, but it's also weapons stepping up. Coming into the year, there was question marks about these Chargers receivers because Keenan Allen certainly left to the Bears. He was traded, and then Mike Williams was just flat out released. Vlad McConkey, he was picked, of course, by the Chargers with the 34th pick overall in the second round. And he goes out there and he has his breakout game, the one we've been waiting for. 6 receptions for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's an 18.5 average. McConkey was extremely shifty. He had a 60-yard touchdown catch and run. It was just absolutely phenomenal. Josh Palmer also had 72 yards on 2 receptions. Will Disley, another strong game, 5 catches for 41 yards. Jalen Reagor got involved as well. J.K. Dobbins, he had somewhat of a quiet game. He did find the end zone with just 3.4 yards per carry and then 4 catches for 11 yards. But I thought Dobbins did a good job overall, just fighting through contact and wearing down the Saints defense. He was pretty good, if I'm being honest with you guys. And of course, the rookie Kamani Vidal ended up getting 6 carries. We're trying to get him more involved, dude. He's got a lot of potential. Another rookie on this team that stepped up. He was picked in the 6th round, 181. Looking forward to seeing more out of him. Certainly with the injury to Gus Edwards and just his poor play, he's going to be expected to do some things. And Hassan Haskins, more of a special teams guy, but he did have 1 carry for 0 yards. But the offense, I thought it was good overall. I mean, Dicker has been amazing. I mean, he's only missed, 1 kick this year. He did miss an extra point, but the special teams like Scott, maybe he's been the best punter in the game this year. I mean, he was just incredible. He had a 57.3 average, pinned the Saints inside of the 23 times, just playing field position, because the Chargers won this game with their explosiveness, but it was also just their defense, their ability to make the Saints have to go on long drives. And they ultimately decided to bench Rattler for Hayner. And Hayner did play better, but it wasn't anything crazy. 5 sacks overall for the Chargers. Khalil Mack was amazing. Boza ended up having to leave the game. He's still dealing with that hamstring, which meant that Tuli Tuipulotu was asked to step in, and he had an amazing game. First sack of the season, in addition to a tackle for a loss and a pass deflection. I thought, honestly, Tuli was not that great in the last game. I thought he was just flat out bad. And I've said that, hey, man, he's got a lot of potential. It's time for him to step up and have that game. And he certainly did in this one. Desir Taylor's another guy who deserves a lot of credit. He was a 6th-round pick last year, and he was just great in coverage all game. He had 2 pass breakups. He was definitely, without question, the best corner for the Chargers in this game. They were without Samuel. Leonard certainly is on the IR. Fulton got injured, which meant that Taylor was going to have to step up and make plays. We saw some Elijah Molden. We saw Cam Hart play well. And these guys just, they stepped up big time. The Chargers secondary has been great all year, despite it having concerns coming into the season. The pass rush has been the one thing for this defense. If it can get going, then all of a sudden it might be the best in the NFL. And that's why we saw them have 5 sacks, and the Saints just weren't able to do much. They only came away with 8 points, which is very, very low. And albeit the Saints are not a great team without Derek Carr. Even with Derek Carr, they're not amazing. But, I mean, the Chargers, they can only play, obviously, who's on their schedule. And this was definitely a good game for their defense to continue to push that momentum forward. Outside of that, though, I will say that the Chargers, this was just a game for them to sort of get back on track. You lose a tough one to the Cardinals, a game you feel like you should have won. And even though the Chargers are 4-3, which isn't anything crazy, they absolutely could be much, much better. I mean, you take a look at the games they lost, like 2 to the Cardinals. They lost by 7 points to the Chiefs with all those injuries. The Steelers game, they were tied going to the 4th and did lose by 10. So this team could very well be undefeated, and that's why I am optimistic about them moving forward at Cleveland versus Tennessee versus Cincinnati versus Baltimore. I mean, certainly the Bengals and Ravens are going to be difficult games. The Browns on the road, that's not going to be easy. They just beat the Ravens. The Titans have a pretty good defense. So nothing's going to be handed to the Chargers, but there's a very high chance that I think this team makes the playoffs. I mean, you get 10 wins, you're basically a lock to make it. So with how many games are remaining for the Chargers, remember, they already had that early bye, which was in week 5. So there's going to be, 9 more games left. So if the Chargers can win 4-3, if they can win 6 of their next 9 games, they're going to make the playoffs. They could get 9 and get in. Who really knows at this point? The AFC is very, very close, so it's going to come down to a lot. It's going to be super, super just tight down the stretch. But I mean, you look at the schedule. Broncos, that game's at home. It's one the Chargers certainly are going to expect to win. New England, Las Vegas. I think they win all those games. Tampa Bay, Kansas City. Maybe they end up splitting that. And then you got Falcons, Ravens, Bengals, Titans, Cleveland. I think there's a very high chance, man. Just health has been the thing for this team, and they have a lot of depth too. So, I mean, if this team was fully healthy, legitimately, I think we'd be talking about them as a top 5 team. But the fact that they haven't been, they're just barely over 500, and that's why you see in the power rankings they're listed as like the 15th or the 16th best team, right? Like ESPN has them at 17, NFL.com has them at 15, CBS has them at 16, Sports Illustrated actually has them at 13. They're very high in them. I would put the Chargers definitely top 15 just because they've got Justin Herbert. They've got a very good defense. The offensive line, it started off very, very hot, but I thought it played well in this one against the Saints. The Saints have a kind of a sneaky good defense, and the Chargers held their own. But the main thing is Justin Herbert. I mean, whenever he's healthy and on the field, this team has a chance to win. We also add in the fact that Lad McConkey had a breakout game. The pass rush got going, and the special team continues to play well. Maybe the best in the game, if we're being honest. It's very, very good. So, yeah, I feel great about the Chargers moving forward. It is the Saints. They're starting Spencer Rattler, so I'm not going to step here and be like, oh, the Chargers just broke the NFL. But it makes me feel a lot better about them moving forward. In terms of the offense, though, I definitely want to see it be a little bit more consistent. They're 24th in points per game. Passing offense, they're 24th. But a lot of that is just the way that they started, right? So you got to give context. I mean, Herbert to start the year, not only was he injured, but it was also the Chargers didn't have to throw the ball. They were running it. So it's kind of like a little bit misleading. But if Herbert can continue to play like he has the past 2 weeks and the pass rush can get going, again, this team is going to be extremely dangerous and tough to beat. I know a lot of Charger fans don't think too highly about this team. They're like, we're good, we're not great. I think the Chargers honestly can compete with anyone in the entire AFC. The defense is actually first in terms of points allowed. Passing defense is 9th. Rushing defense is 11th. Total defense is 8th. Third down conversions 5th. Red zone 4th. Sacks is 18th. That's the thing for the Chargers. They're not getting many sacks. They did in this one, but overall in the season they haven't been. And pressure is a big thing too. But you've got to be able to get after the quarterback and make some plays, especially with the amount of talent on this team. Bud Dupree, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Tilly Tupelotu. There's a lot of good players. And the secondary is so good, which buys you even more time to get to the quarterback. Takeaways is 10 of them for 14. So the defense and almost every category is top 10 here. So it keeps playing extremely well. The offense, though, has been the thing for the Chargers. There's not enough weapons, and that's why it's so important to see Lad McConkey break out, because if he can continue to build off of this, all of a sudden you've got a very, very athletic, a slippery type of receiver who can make guys miss and break out for big plays. That's going to open up everything in this offense, because to start the year, it was essentially just J.K. Dobbins. And if you took him out of the game, the Chargers weren't able to win. But now you see Disley getting a lot more targets and catches. You're seeing McConkey. Josh Palmer had a couple of big, deep catches. I mean, second time we've seen him get going. So the Chargers, I definitely think, should go out there at the deadline and make a move for a big-time receiver. The question is, who's that going to be? Because I feel like at this point, the majority of them are gone. Also, can the Chargers afford it, right?